Welcome to D&D Backstory. This is the origin of Sybel Longstrider, the half-elf swords bard and Draconic sorcerer. A distinguished-looking human man in his late 50s sits at a table, dressed in brown leathers over pale blue, a lyre at his side. He stares into the distance, pondering, taking the occasional pull from a simple wooden pipe.
Are you absolutely sure, Fax? This is no small thing, you ask, for any of the three of us.
Seated across from the human is a stout, heavily scarred dwarf, his kind gaze peering out over a nose broken many times over, and a bushy, well-kept black beard. Perched on his knee is a tall, wide-eyed, half-elven boy of 6, with hazel eyes, one blackened, and brown hair down to his shoulders. Firelight plays over the three of them, gleaming off the boy's most remarkable feature, a thin sheen of bronze scales that trace his jawline, brows, and knuckles. The dwarf squeezes the child's shoulder and nods at the human.
Aye, Longstrider, I'm sure. I was a dwarf at heart, true and true.
He ruffles the boy's hair.
But if ever a lad needed to see the world, it's this one. I've already near run out of tales to tell him, and he's still insatiable.
That I don't doubt. Marcus and Variana's boy. I'm surprised you haven't worn your tongue down to nothing, dwarf.
The two men laugh, the boy joining in a beat later.
It has to be you, Jace. Mine adventuring days are behind me, and Cord forbid the lad get sent off to Marcus's merchant clan, or Dear V's stuck-up elven kin. You go everywhere, Jace. Adventure's in his blood. I can think of nary a better mentor for him.
Jace Longstrider taps the tip of his pipe against his chin, then sets it down and crouches on one knee, his blue gaze meeting young Sybel Stormwing's hazel one.
And what do you think, lad? We'd be doing a whole lot of walking, and I cannot always promise you a bed, a hot meal, or an easy time.
With a deadly serious look in his eye, the boy stares back at him.
I think I'd like to come with you, sir. I'll miss Fax and my friends, but...
He looks to Fax, who nods and once again squeezes his shoulder.
But I want to see all the wonderful places Fax has told me about. I want to be a sword fighter like Daddy, and I want to do magic like Mommy and Fax do. I want to make new friends and help other people stand up to bullies.
Jace nods solemnly and places a gentle hand on the boy's cheek.
I'd bet that's how you got this beauty.
Sybel nods and grins sheepishly.
Very well, but before you learn to swing swords and cast spells and save people, we're going to teach you how to duck, kid.
The years passed and the young dragon-scaled half-elf flourished. As they traveled the continent, Jace made sure to expose Sybel to as many different cultures and peoples as he possibly could. And Jace, Sybel soon came to understand, was welcomed most everywhere. From sprawling palaces to humble halfling villages, from hermits' hovels to flying gnomish cities, they wandered, entertaining and charming with song and tales, and helping whoever they found in need. In the great forests of the west, they supped with wood elves and firbolgs, and learned how to listen closely for nature's voice, and to seek out that which sought to disrupt the natural order. In the far north, they wandered with the Goliaths, herding mammoths and pushing their survival skills to their limits. And in the deserts of the southeast, they dug wells and irrigation ditches by day and danced with the local tieflings by night. It was in one such village at the age of 9 that Sybel was introduced to the first love of his life, the guitar. And all the while, Jace instructed him personally in fencing, in music, in magic, and in history. Sybel absorbed it all and hungered for more.
Wake up, Drakeley. It's time.
Sybel blearily sits up in his sleeping furs, his hand flying to the rapier at his side even as he identifies the intruder.
Varn, what the fuck, man? Time for what?
The massive nomadic orc stares down at him stonily. As he blinks the sleep from his eyes, Sybel takes in the details of his friend's appearance and realizes that Varn is dressed in war paint. A displacer beast skin hanging from his mohawked scalp and mountainous shoulders as a hooded cloak. A grim expression holds sway over his usually jovial face.
Time, Stormwing, for your trials.
What trials? What are you talking about?
Your trials.
The young orc throws a small bundle at Sybel's feet. A water skin, a loin wrap, and a long, single-edged knife.
The Harper told us, Drakeling, dawn marks your 16th year. You are to leave here and return triumphant as an orc, a warrior and a hunter.
Varn, come on, man. I'm not an orc. Be serious. You expect me to go out there and kill a displacer beast? Naked? With just a knife?
Varn nods, unsmiling, and then gives a slight shrug.
Doesn't have to be a displacer beast. Anything similarly nasty would suffice.
I'm a half-elf, you great green lunk. I'm not even really an adult for at least another couple of years, and the elves won't call me that for another few decades.
Another shrug.
Nearly 4 months you have been with us, little bronze one. If you wish not to be taken in, why would you have been here? The Harper completed his own hunt long ago, and the clan has claimed others as our own over the years. Their old traditions yet carry much weight with many of my people.
Sybel stares flabbergasted at the towering young warrior priest who meets his gaze unmovingly.
Fuck.
He dons the loincloth, ties his sun-bleached brown hair back tightly, and strides from the tent, fuming into the starlight. Varn follows and leads him to the forest's edge.
You return within the week, Drakeling. How you survive is of no concern to me. But when you return, you will return with a suitable trophy. If not,
then what? Varn?
then you had best not return at all, Bronze One.
It is the 5th night that Sybel has spent in the forest. Having claimed no trophy larger than a rabbit, he lies sleeping in his makeshift shelter when a scream shatters the night. He leaps instantly to his feet, his knife in hand. Cocking his head, he listens carefully. This time he catches the direction of the scream and takes off sprinting.
That wasn't any orc. Sounded like a gnome, or maybe...
He bursts out of the trees with a dawning horror. He takes in the scene immediately. A small round clearing with a tent torn asunder. A halfling man lying unconscious and bleeding. A halfling woman screaming and sobbing against a tree, and looming over her,
A fucking owlbear?
the beast towers over the woman, shrieking in anticipation of its meal, and raising a massive claw to strike her down.
Shit! Hey, ugly, hey!
His words do nothing to dissuade the monstrosity, but the young bard throws his left hand forward, and a thin strand of lightning arcs out, wrapping around the beast's neck and jerking it backwards. It roars in fury and turns to confront its new adversary.
Let's you and I dance instead.
And with a twist of his wrist, he sends green flame shooting up the knife's blade, circling the beast warily. The creature, in turn, rears up on its hind legs and roars again. It towers over the half-elf, screaming with murderous intent. It drops to all fours and charges. Sybel braces himself, knife at the ready, smirking slightly in spite of himself. Just before the monstrosity makes contact, he throws his hand up and conjures an arcane barrier to stop it. And is taken completely off guard as the owlbear smashes through it, a beak the size of his head tearing at the tendons of his shoulder and throat, 1,000 pounds of fur, feathers, and muscle bearing down upon him. He disengages barely and mumbles a word of power, his wound glowing faintly as he staunches the worst of the bleeding.
Okay, probably can't handle another go-round like that. New plan.
The owlbear circles back around.
You big, stinking chicken!
The creature lunges forward. The magic in Sybel's words causes the creature to flinch, and the sorcerer parries the terrible beak to the side and sends the owlbear lumbering forward. He stabs his flame-wreathed dagger into the beast's side as it passes. He sees how drastically he failed to strike anything vital.
Seriously, what kind of lazy wizard first cooked you up? It's like someone wanted to come up with a new chimera and gave up after the first draft.
The beast cannot understand his words, of course, but the will and intent behind them is enough, and his magic continues to pull at the monster, like a swarm of stinging gnats at the corners of its vision. It charges again, but this time when Sybel throws up his arcane barrier, it holds. And though the beast knocks the wind out of him, he avoids any serious injury, and responds with a slash across the tendons of its foreleg.
Come on, Ugly! I know you have to be tough to be stupid, but you can't be that tough.
Claws tear into flesh, though bronze scales and magical shields turn and dampen the worst of the blows. The knife flashes repeatedly, green flames flickering, and occasionally parts through enough fur and hide to draw blood. Sybel's eyes dart back and forth, searching for an opportunity to end this fight before his magical resources dwindle, and he finds his insides on the outside.
Fighting!
Finally, his breathing strained, blood pouring from a half-dozen wounds, he finds one. The beast rears once more to its full height, raising both of its claws to the sky and bringing them straight down towards its would-be prey. Sybel, his every instinct screaming at him to duck and run, holds his ground until the owlbear's full mass is firmly committed to its course. Only then does he move. And when he does, he steps forward, shuffling inside the creature's reach and thrusting upwards with his orcish blade, the monster's own weight and momentum driving it up to the hilt, under the base of its jaw. The creature lets out a groan and paws weakly at the young Spellsword, then collapses, pinning Sybel underneath its suddenly stilled bulk. 2 days later, near dusk, Sybel emerges from the forest. Bruised, battered, and torn, he carries on his back the skin of the owlbear, with as much meat wrapped inside of it as he could butcher and carry. Striding up to his usual cook fire, he drops his bundle and removes the beast's head, throwing it down at Varn's feet.
Will that do it for you, you big green asshole?
The orc grins savagely at him from his perch at the spit and quirks one eyebrow.
Good enough. Let us feast, Longstrider.
Sybel, 3 different wisecracks on his lips, stops dead.
Longstrider? That's not my name, Varn. That's Jace's.
The orc gives one of his signature shrugs.
When he left us yesterday, he bade me to tell you it is yours to bear if you like. Names have power, Bronze One, and that one more than most. Wear it with honor. It suits you well.
Sybel ponders for a bit, words failing him for perhaps the first time in his life. He nods slowly and grins wide.
I suppose Sybel Longstrider does have a nice ring to it. So, tell me.
The orc cocks an eyebrow in query.
How does it feel to get shown up by a half-elven, dwarven-raised drakeling like myself?
Varn snorts heavily and clubs Sybel on the back, then turns to carve a large slice of venison from above the flames.
Unless you killed it with just your teeth, you haven't shown up anyone, small one.
A few days later, Sybel bids farewell to Varn and the clan and sets off down the road, sword at his hip, guitar over his back, and a newly strung necklace of owlbear claws around his neck. He stops briefly at a crossroads, pondering his next move. Finally, he grins and shrugs and wanders off in a direction unmarked and untrodden. After all, he's Sybel Longstrider, and what good is a long stride if not used to break trail for others? He has a song in his heart and adventure in his blood. Something interesting is bound to show up sooner or later. It always does.
Thank you all for watching. If you'd like to check out more how-to videos or more full character backstories, make sure to check out the rest of our channel. And also be sure to like this video and subscribe so you stay up to date on all of our characters and their related content as it gets released. And if you'd like to help us out even a little more than that, there's a link to our Patreon page in the description below.